Hi everyone, you're watching Good for the Game TV and this our betting preview for the BMW Championship starting tomorrow at the Aronimink Golf Course in Pennsylvania. Well, no Brad Bernstein joining me on the show, so it's just me, Brent Graham. I'll be sharing quite a bit of screen with you so you don't have to look at my face for the entire show. And let's formulate something of a betting strategy around what this is the third of the FedExCup playoff events. We're down to our final 70 players. From this event, 30 players will take part in the Tour Championship. So a very important one. I always enjoy watching the bubble, so to speak, if we could use a poker term, on Sunday night when you have a look at guys just moving in and outside of the top 30. But without further ado, let's get into this one from a betting angle. I'm going to share my screen with you. I'm going to take you through some of my logic when it comes to formulating betting strategies. Starting off with a couple of the websites that I use, and I'll start you off right here at betting.betfair.com/golf. This I find is an excellent website for golf betting. You'll see as I scan down here, they've got lots of golf betting previews, both on European Tour events and also, of course, the BMW Championship. They've also got comment on the Ryder Cup, where the fields, of course, have been finalized. So plenty to look at there. But one of the favorite things I like to go on is the course form and the recent week's form stats, which they give you a little bit of information on the players. I generally scroll straight down and I like to go here. You've got recent weeks. I'm going to click on course form, but course form is essentially non-existent. The last time this course was used was in a PGA event was the AT&T. That was back in 2011. Of course, it does tell you that a guy like Justin Rose has won on the course before, but most weeks you'll get a lot more information out of this particular segment. So for this week, I'm really focusing on who is in form at the moment. Just to mention one of their tipsters, he's also on Twitter as well, Steve Rawlings, aka the punter. Well, he puts together a very comprehensive and enjoyable betting preview. So just to go through a couple of the key things I like to look at is things like the course details, the Aronimink Golf Course. Not a lot, or not as much in terms of recent form to go on as you would normally have here as well. But describes a bit of the course, has a look at tournament winners. Of course, this tournament has been played at other venues. So don't look at the tournament venue and think the guy has course form, because, of course, it took place somewhere else. And then this is a very important section. What will it take to win the BMW Championship? And this, Steve reckons a stat that stands out this week is scrambling. So that's something I like to look at early. As I formulate my own strategy, I do go onto a number of research sites. I look at a number of tipsters. But something like that, I want to know what it is that a player has to do well to win at the course. And certainly scrambling looks like it's going to be a key stat at this course. Scrambling, of course, like every other part of the game, is always important. But certain courses lend themselves more to distance, some to accuracy. And the way I've assessed this one, yes, scrambling, and also trying to avoid scrambling, of course, and that is finding greens in regulation, which generally means being fairly accurate off the tee as well. Just to skim down, he does go through all of the market leaders, and then he shares his own tips at the bottom. So very useful preview that. But I'm going to go onto the page now, which shows the form. And I've come up with a few bets here. Dustin Johnson, let's actually look at the betting quickly. I'm going to go to BetExchange for their betting, because I must say BetExchange's outright price is probably just a cut or two above most of them at the moment. You look at Dustin Johnson, 8-1. I'm not sure that they're the best price about Johnson himself, but on some of the longer shots, which I want to talk about, they certainly do have some attractive prices. Josh Johnson, for me, just hasn't been impressing of late. He's been there or thereabouts, but I certainly wouldn't have the confidence to back him at 8-1. Although I do note with interest that there has been money for him this week. There was 9-1 generally available earlier in the week, and that seems to have been snapped up now in most places. Justin Rose, we know already, he's won at the course. He's in good form. Made a bit of a run last week as well. He's at 15-1. I see a lot of guys tipping him this week. But the guy that I'm coming to for my main selection, my win-only bet this week, is Brooks Koepka. He delivered for me in the PGA Championship not that far ago. And let's go and have a look at Koepka's form. If we have a look at the last 4 events that he's played in, he's won 1, he's had a 5th and 8th, and last week a 12th, actually his lowest finish in the last 4 events. So Koepka, certainly a big runner. Generally speaking, he's around the 14-1 mark. So I'd be more than happy to take 16-1 about his chances. So I'm going for him win only there with BetExchange at 16-1. I'll cover my staking plan as such towards the end of the show. While we're on the topic of Koepka, though, one thing you'll note about him is incredible consistency. And bearing in mind this field is actually only 70 players, I really do like the other bet that's available at Sportingbet, and that's top 10, all ties paid in full. And I'm going to stress that all ties paid in full is crucial here, because if your player ties for 8th with 7 other players, at most bookmakers, your bet gets shredded in terms of dead heat rules applying. But Sportingbet do pay out in full, and I've looked at their top 10 prices, and they are very competitive as well. So it's not as if you're taking a ridiculously short price. So let's have a look at Koepka there. He's 3-2. Generally, we talk about that as 15-10 here in South Africa. So 15-10 Koepka, 1.5-1. And that's going to be my biggest bet on this tournament. I just think he's so consistent. He's playing well. And I did note that he has got very good scrambling stats as well. So when he does miss the green, he's able to get up and down on a regular basis. So for me, Koepka, as he gets towards the business end of the FedEx Cup, I expect him to be more and more prominent. So he's my main bet at 3-2 or 15-10 for a top 10 place. Let's go back to the form grid there, and I'm just going to skim down a little bit. There's a couple of long shots or longer shots, should I say, that I'm going for. Certainly a few to watch this week. Justin Thomas, a bit disappointing last week, but as you can see there, he's been very, very consistent as well. You've got Justin Rose, who was runner-up last week. Never quite threatened the Bryson DeChambeau, who, of course, won his 2nd event in a row. And he went off last week at 35-1. I'll just check at FedEx here. But he's obviously going off quite a bit shorter, around about the 18-1 mark. I've seen him as short as 16-1 in places. So any of these top guys, obviously they've got big chances of winning. Jason Day, perhaps question mark over him with his miscut last week, which is quite disappointing. But I'm going to skim a little bit further down until I get to the second of my fancies this week. And that is, just want to make sure I'm getting this in the right order. Well, let's start off with, I don't know if he's the second or third, but Tyrrell Hatton. Hatton at one point was leading last week. In fact, he was very well positioned after the 3rd round. He did fade a bit, but to have a look at his form there, he's certainly been consistent. A 12th place on the back of another top 20 and a top 10 prior to that. He's a guy who I followed quite closely a year or two ago, but he did go off the boil for a while. But you can see by the results that he's been putting in here that he is playing some excellent golf. And he's a guy I'm quite keen to have on side this week. And if we look at BetExchange, if we look at Hatton's price, 65-1, is generally around the 55-1 mark. You can't do a lot of damage at that price. It's always nice when you go for one of the top boys like I have in Koepka, that you can then have a couple of long shots running for you as well. So I'm going for Tyrrell Hatton for a win there at 65-1. And of course, I'm looking at Sportingbet and their top 10 places as well. And Hatton at 4-1. I think that's a decent bet, and I'm going to be taking some of that 4-1 for a top 10 with all ties paid out in full. I might just have to search for my next golfer. I did see him on the list there. I'm not too sure where he's placed here, so let me just have a look. It's Cameron Smith, and he's mentioned in the column itself, talking about the fact that he's had a brace of podiums. He's come 3rd in his last 2 starts, but I want to have a look at his overall form. And we have a look here. We've got the 2 third places. Comes on the back of a pretty indifferent performance. I think that was probably in the PGA Championship. If I could look, yep, that was where Koepka won. So a little bit of indifferent form prior to that. But generally speaking, playing very, very consistently. And a couple of 3rd place finishes. I'm more than happy, first and foremost, to be taking the 4-1 about Cameron Smith finishing in the top 10. And then just popping across to the BetExchange site, I did see some 50-1 about Smith winning the tournament. So those are my 3 selections this week. We've got Koepka, Smith, and Tyrrell Hatton. I'm going to go to my staking plan now and just talk you through that. Let's have a look here. Slideshow. We'll pop it on from current slide. Hopefully you can see that. I'll just hide that for the time being. This is my BMW staking plan. My 3 win bets, all at BetExchange. 1 unit Koepka at 16-1, and then half a unit on Smith at 50-1, and Hatton at 65-1. Just realizing I made a little bit of an error. I wanted the Smith and Hatton bets to be a quarter of the Koepka bet. So let's go. We'll make that at actually 2 units on Koepka at 16-1, half a unit on the others. And then 3 top 10 bets, the same golfers, all at Sportingbet where the ties are paid in full. 4 units Koepka, as you can see, comfortably my biggest bet. And if he arrives, then I should at the very least pull square as long as he can run a top 10. And then I also like Smith and Hatton. I'm going 1.5 units on each of those. So certainly hoping for some good action there. And let's stop sharing the screen and wrap the show up. That's our BMW Championship preview. You can also catch, you can have a look at the tips on the Good for the Game website. This is a Wednesday night as I'm putting this one out on air. Thursday night, of course, for us is a big night on Good for the Game TV. We're going to be having GG Gaming Gone Mad. That looks like it's going to be scheduled for 8:30 tomorrow night. You don't want to miss that show. And then straight afterwards into our flagship show, rebranded this week because it's rugby only. We're calling it The Handicap, and we're going to be talking to rugby betting experts. That's at 9 o'clock on Thursday night. You can subscribe to the channel to make sure you don't miss any of our videos. Just go below the video for that. And otherwise, we'll see you hopefully on the Good for the Game forum to talk golf, cycling, rugby, soccer, whatever you want to bet on.